I think most of us have a moment where we think about walking away from our jobs. But very few people actually do it. Because life is heavy. There are loans, family, responsibilities, and the comforts of a routine. It becomes harder to even imagine what lies outside that cage. You cannot just get used to a job. What problems would slow up? What would you lose? And honestly, those are all unknowns. 6 months ago, I was in that exact position. I didn't expect things to change so quickly. But one night, I sat down for 2 hours and asked myself 4 brutal questions that completely remapped my life. After that, I resigned. Since then, I've been turned down a few major job offers. And I want to share those 4 questions with you. So I just want to share about 5 minutes of what was going on in my head during that time. Maybe you are in your 20s, you're in school, or maybe you are in your 30s, building a family, or maybe you are in your 40s, in the middle of everything, or even later in life. It doesn't really matter. If anything I say resonates with you, feel free to leave a comment. I'd actually really like to hear other people's experiences too. Okay, let's go back to the 4 questions. If you ever feel like you are surviving your career rather than living it, this might resonate. Let's go back. The first question I asked myself was simple. When I looked back at my past week of work, were there at least 5 moments that made me feel genuine energy? Yes, 5 moments. Why 5 moments? Why this number? 5 moments means just one small positive piece of feedback per working day. I closed my eyes and trying to really try to look for them. I found a few, a nod of my approval from my boss, or the joy of solving complex problems with my team, but they were tiny. And they were instantly swallowed by rising KPIs, endless pressure and noise from every direction. So if I'm honest, yes, there are positive moments, but they are not strong enough to balance everything else. Okay? We can see the Okay, we can see the second question is more about direction. If I stay on this exact path, where will it be in 5 years? This is where I started to realize I was just repeating my past experiences over and over. It was all output with zero new input. It felt deeply draining. There is also this feeling just sort of burning yourself out while still trying to support everything around you. The only skill I was practicing was endurance. Just endurance. In China's corporate climate, once you cross 40, the room for maneuvers shrink drastically unless you were at the very top. And I couldn't ignore that anymore. The world was moving forward, but I was completely stagnant. And I couldn't accept that passive helplessness anymore. Okay, so let's come to the question 3. The third question about direction. Working backward, call this job actually deliver the life I want in 5 years. Working 4 hours a day, spending real, unhurried time with my kids and family, and growing my wealth and better health. I need to have better health. But working backward, the math didn't add up. That was a vision. If I stayed the 12 to 15 hours, days would never stop. Even during my so-called break, I was still working half the time. Can you imagine? I was breastfeeding as well as I was writing a final report PPT for my team, for company. It became a life question. And the final question, hardest. Is what I'm getting from this job still worth that what I am paying mentally and emotionally? Mentally and emotionally. Because the KPI is just going up. And in a way, the pressure become kind of endless. Some pressure is good, I think. It pushes creativity, but too much pressure. Unreasonable KPIs that exceed industry's limits turns everything into just a survival mode. And in that mode, you are not really creating anymore. You are just reacting. And that might also be part of why things won't really improve in the long run. Because when KPIs keep rising, but nothing really changes underneath, you just end up stuck. And over time, they started to show physically. Sleepless nights, nightmares, and hair loss, and more gray hair. Can you see my gray hair? At that point, no salary packaging can compensate for the erosion of your well-being. Yes, I didn't leave because I had a plan, and when I left, because I couldn't stay. So after sitting with all of that for about 2 hours, I decided to leave, not in a dramatic way. I didn't have a perfect safety net or a flawless plan. I just knew I needed a space to think, to reset, to breathe again. The hardest part was leaving the younger colleagues I had trained, and I realized something. The world is much bigger than my job. The world is incredibly massive, and while I'm small, I'm really small. I'm also high capable. I intentionally turned down job offers over the last 6 months because I refused to jump straight back into the same loop. I wanted a true reset. I wanted a true reset. I wanted a true reset. If I have one real regret, yes, of course, if asked me whether I have some regret, yes, I have one real regret. Is that I didn't start making videos on YouTube while I was still working. When I finally uploaded my first video a month ago, I had almost 0 subscribers. It can feel discouraging. But honestly, this creative process has become my own form of the therapy. It's how I'm slowly rebuilding my inner world piece by piece. Yes, about my heart, the inner world. We will talk more about that rebuilding process next time. If any part of this sounds familiar to you, I really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. It helps to know we are not the only ones thinking like this. Let's build a positive feedback loop here. I'm Cici. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.